Hi, I'm Zahra, and today I'm going to be sharing my journey with Prosper from being a nutritionist and a life coach to going through all the different professions I've had in my life and all the transformations that I've had, not just through the immigration journey, but assimilating into Australia as well. And I'm super excited to be talking today with Prosper.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, the number one place where you get rare, behind-the-scenes access to powerful solutions, methods, and stories you won't hear elsewhere. So if you're here and you're hoping to move from being stuck to thriving, or to find clarity, tools, or maybe just deep inspiration to solve the problems that you might have, you have come to the right place. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today I'm thrilled to welcome a guest whose journey is as raw as it is transformative. Now, Zahra, how are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you for having me, Prosper, and it's very nice to meet you.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine. I can't wait to learn a whole bunch from you. You see, when I saw your file come through, I was like, wow, this is a lot. I mean, for those that are meeting Zahra for the very first time, she is Zahra Batool of Wellness with Zahra. So Zahra is a nutritionist, NLP coach, health and wellness strategist, and also an artist. And she's walked through some of the darkest valleys many of us fear. All right. So we're going to be going through her journey and what it is that she's now helping others to be, do, and have. And we're going to peek behind the facade. We're going to confront the pain and also see the flip side and illuminate how Zahra has turned all of those trials into the power she now offers to others. And I want you to be catching every bit of insight that we're going to have along the way. Now, Zahra, your life started off in Pakistan and, you then moved to Australia as a teenager. Tell us a little bit about that background and what was life like back then?
Yeah, so I grew up in Pakistan. That's where I'm from. That's where I was born. And at the age of 13, I immigrated to Australia with my family. But even in Pakistan, I faced a lot of trials and tribulations, a lot of ungroundedness. My parents divorced when I was 5, and I went through a lot of different moving processes, and I felt very ungrounded during this time, and developing a stable sense of identity was really difficult for me, especially when I wasn't getting the love and nurture from both parents most of my childhood. And so moving to Australia was a huge culture shock for me, because it did involve a lot of identity shifts. And that's something that I'm still sort of adapting to and assimilating to today.
Thank you so much. And obviously, this is something that when you start off in a place of not knowing your identity or belonging, it actually really shakes you up as you progress and you move along. Now, in Pakistan, just so that our viewers have a bit of context, what is the stigma around divorce?
Yeah, so unfortunately, the stigma exists when it comes to divorce, and it's informed a lot by religion as well and traditional values, where it's a really sad thing to say, but women are told that you are now going to when they get married, they get told you're now going to your final home. The only way that you're going to get out of this home is when your funeral comes out of this home, roughly translated. And so it's one of those things where divorce isn't even considered an option for some people. But when it comes to domestic violence and the environment that I experienced growing up, I think that that is more harmful to the child and to both parties involved. And so sometimes that hard decision has to be made.
And for the kids that are involved in this whole debacle? I mean, obviously it was for the good, but what's the societal view on kids that are brought up in such an environment?
Yeah, so the stigma is a lot of it is experienced by the female when there is a single female in Pakistan with children. She is not very well accepted in society. There's not many roles she can fill. There's not much integration that can happen, and generally they want to get her remarried straight away because of this, and so life can be quite difficult because of that.
Was that the reason then that you guys then decided to leave all of that and maybe come and try life in a whole different place?
Yeah. So I was very lucky in the sense that at the time I was living with my father, and my mum had to get remarried and she moved to Australia first. She established a life here. She extended her education, got stable employment, and then she was able to sort of sponsor us with the help of her husband at the time. And so I was able to sort of get that citizenship very quickly, which a lot of people have a lot of trouble with getting. And so in that way, I was very lucky to come here and have that environment already there for me to support me.
And how was your early immigrant experience, sort of you coming, because you've already been brought up in a different place and you're coming into a whole new world in and of itself, what was the experience that you received? Because you said there was a bit of culture shock.
Yeah. The culture shock was it was something I wasn't really expecting. And, I started high school in Australia, and during high school, it's already quite difficult for people, and you're struggling with your hormones, your identity, and this puberty and everything, bullying and things like that. So I experienced all of that, plus the identity shifting, which is I had to start seeing myself as an Australian rather than a Pakistani. The language that I was speaking is different now. I did learn English in Pakistan. I learned the grammar, the spelling, the comprehension. But when it came to the accent and the slang and the pronunciation and things like that, that was something that I had a knowledge gap in. And so I became very shy at first. And I consider that a gift, because while I was so quiet and I felt so isolated and different from people, different in their language, different in the clothes, different in the food, I became observant. I became curious. I became intensely curious. And this curiosity still is something that I carry with me today. And it takes me in every single experience that I have in my life. I've found that just having curiosity has helped me so much. So I definitely consider all those experiences a gift, being isolated, not feeling like I belong, not being able to relate to anyone. And at the same time, I was going through some crisis of faith as well. And that's something I haven't really publicly talked about, because it is something so personal, but that also affected part of my journey.
Right. But obviously the place in and of itself, you managed to go to high school, and did you take on any studies, or what did you do pretty much after high school?
Yeah, so as I said, I became so curious. I wanted to understand myself. I wanted to understand other people. And so my interest took me into psychology. And initially, I went into psychology, wanting to become a psychologist, wanting to help people. I had this intense interest. But what I found is that I was also going through my own mental health issues at the time. Excuse me. There was still some unhealed trauma from my childhood that I hadn't processed. There was a lot of therapy involved. There were medications involved, and I was already part of the system in that way. And so I felt a little bit like I don't think I can help other people while I'm trying to help myself. And so I didn't finish the psychology degree that I started. And I went into many other different directions. I went into beauty therapy. I went into chefing. I tried delivery driving. I was a pharmacy assistant for a while. I worked in a general store, and all these different jobs and experiences just taught me what's not for me. And it actually brought me closer to my passion, because now what I'm doing, I feel so passionate about. Even if I face obstacles and challenges, I felt like all those previous experiences was just training for me to go through the challenges that I'm experiencing today. So I'm still grateful for all those sort of areas where I went. It wasn't actually like my life direction, but it was still part of the process of growth that I went through.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, people have to try out a few things. I think it's like Goldilocks, right? You try a big bed and it's not the right fit. You try a middle bed, it's probably too hard. And then you just need the right sort of fit, which then basically works out perfectly for you. But one of the jobs that you did was selling alcohol as a service. Didn't that go against who you were as a person at that particular time?
Yeah, so alcohol is something that in the Muslim faith, obviously, it's not allowed. And among many things, as I mentioned, I already had a crisis of faith in my early teens, and I don't consider myself religious, but at the same time, my personal values, being a nutritionist, being a life coach, someone who's into personal growth and transformation, alcohol is not something that's part of my life generally day to day. And being exposed to that environment, being in the place where I'm involved in the process of supplying someone with alcohol made me feel like I don't want to be part of that process. No judgment to those who want to make the free decision in their life to drink. And at the end of the day, we all get to make choices in our lives. For me, I just felt like I want to be part of the process that facilitates healing and facilitates growth and personal transformation and self-awareness. And these are the kinds of things that I'm so passionate and excited about. And doing this job, selling alcohol for 2 years, it drained my soul. I lost self-respect, unfortunately. And in that dark time is when I realized that, okay, I'm going through burnout. This isn't just something physical, because I started to lower my hours bit by bit by bit. But I just couldn't make the decision to leave because it felt like a leap of faith. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I had to choose my health above the income aspect and the financial stability aspect. And I think that that's way more fulfilling. What I'm doing now, which is what I get, is the mental stability, and not only that, life fulfillment. And I think that's super important, to follow your purpose. And not following your purpose, it tortures you in a way that it's really hard to explain unless you've personally gone through it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think viscerally, your soul wants to get you back to, the right path. And all of that friction will be happening. And I can only imagine. But what was life like during those times, especially the fact that you're saying you were still going out and doing the one thing that you despise the most? And obviously in any hospitality industry, you have to serve someone with a smile, and some of the people are not in the right frame of mind, and you can only see the effects firsthand. Maybe that was you being put in a position so you can actually learn when people are in their lowest, how to deal with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, no judgment to those who do make the free decision to engage in that. And there's many different reasons why you would do that. For some, it's a problem. For some, it's a method of celebration. It actually brings people together. And so it is a tool at the end of the day that gets abused a lot in modern society. And I think it's because there's a hole that is that they're trying to fill. And the whole is connection. We all need a sense of belonging, and we need a sense of connection. And when it's so lacking, and you need an escape, some people turn to that. And so you're right. It did help me to understand what it's like when people are at their lowest, and how to just serve with a smile, as you said.
Absolutely. So when you were obviously on your way to pivot, you did say you just started lessening your hours and you started looking after pretty much yourself. What happened? How did you then, mitigate? Obviously, because you were doing it so that you can at least get paid. How are you now then looking forward to looking after yourself, if that will be the question right there?
Yeah, so this is where I'm now an entrepreneur, and I decided to dedicate my time, full time, and all my energy into helping others with nutrition and life coaching. I became certified as a life coach and an NLP practitioner early last year. And before that, I had already been a nutritionist for a couple of years. I had set up the sort of back end of my business structure, but when it came to marketing, but when it came to social presence and content creation, that was something I was not engaging in, because all my time and my mental energy was being taken up by the job that I was doing. So it was an easier transition for me to start dedicating my time to putting myself out there more, get back on social media, because I had been away from social media for about 8 years at the time too. So that's been another different change for me to get back on there, put myself out there, and help people and inspire people with my journey.
You see, one of the factors that people use to identify themselves is by the food that they eat. Okay. And in society, like you said, you're a nutritionist. Some people derive their nutrition from plants, some derive their nutrition from animals, and some, I think, just live on alcohol vapor from what we have established. But you shifted from being a vegan to an animal-based diet, and you did this overnight. First of all, tell us a little bit about what was going on and why that was an imminent decision that you made.
Yeah, so veganism, I found my way to veganism through a plant-based diet. So I was doing a plant-based diet for a while. I had never really been a huge meat eater my whole life. And so switching to plant-based wasn't so hard. But what really started me on this elimination journey, where I was eliminating things from my diet, was when I was getting some gut issues. And these gut issues, I had gotten them before, but they would last for maybe 3 to 4 weeks. And at the time I was working as a pharmacy assistant, and this one went on for about 6 weeks consistently. And I was like, okay, something is going on. I've tried all this stuff, over the counter stuff that I could sort of ask as I had access to it by working in a pharmacy, and they just weren't helping me. And I thought, okay, I need to start looking at my diet. And at that point, I had never eliminated anything from my diet. The idea just felt so scary to me, but I started to eliminate gluten from my diet. That brought a little bit of relief. And then I was starting to get issues with dairy, and then I was starting to get issues with so many other things. And then I bit by bit went to plant-based. Then I went to veganism. I went really hard into veganism, and I did it for a couple of years. Near the end of it, I'm not going to say that it helped me to feel better, because initially there was that feeling better when you cut out the processed stuff, right? And that's from just cutting out the processed stuff. But when I started doing the raw juice fasting, where I would juice fruits and vegetables and then just drink juice, and I did that for about 2 weeks. I drank only juice. It sort of affected me in a way that I had never experienced before. Yes, I got intense hunger, but I felt like this sort of mental clarity and sort of this light feeling, and my memory sort of came back for a little while. And I thought, okay, this is great. This must be the answer. It's the raw veganism. That must be it. And so I started to incorporate a little bit more raw veganism into my diet, not just with juices, but also raw vegetables. Unfortunately, the gut issues persisted. I was getting hormonal issues. I was getting mood issues. And at the time, I attributed it all to being a woman, as a lot of this kind of stuff, unfortunately, gets labeled as it's just your hormones because you're being a woman. But I now encourage everyone to actually start finding the root cause. And I had heard about Michaela Peterson, who's Jordan Peterson's daughter, and how she healed so many of her symptoms like juvenile arthritis and depression and anxiety through a meat-based elimination diet. And because I was just done with so many issues that I was getting, constantly bloated, constantly hungry, acid reflux, irritability, hormonal issues, I decided, okay, I'm going to switch to a meat-based diet. Now I'm almost 2 years carnivore, and I don't consume any fruits and vegetables. And I have found this to be something that I've researched so much that now I would never recommend plant-based diet to anybody as a nutritionist, to be honest with you.
Wow. I mean, obviously, I've heard different versions. Some people swear by plants. Some people swear by carnivore and stuff like that. What's the feeling that you have, after you've consumed your meal or something like that?
Yeah, so there's a very big difference when it comes to a high carb diet, which is a vegan diet, and a low carb diet or a zero carb diet, which is a carnivore diet. Now, when it comes to carbohydrates, it's not just like cake and biscuits. Fruits and vegetables also have carbohydrates. And so I was consuming a very high carb, low fat diet, which is generally recommended as the healthy diet. But unfortunately, what they miss out on is a lot of healthy fats and essential complete proteins that can only be achieved from an animal-based nutrition. And so you end up with deficiencies long term. How I feel after eating a meal. When I first started carnivore, the bloating went away almost immediately within the first week. The mental clarity came back. The reflux that I've always had after meals completely disappeared. I can also tell you another thing about this is a little bit embarrassing to admit, but flatulence is something I used to have a huge problem with. I literally felt like a compost heap producing gases all the time as a vegan. And now on carnivore, I barely ever fart, to be honest with you. I digest everything that I consume. I feel energetic all the time. I'm not getting the sugar high and crash all the time. It's a lot more stable energy. The mental clarity is there. I'm able to fast a lot more, and I'm actually feeling fulfilled nutritionally. I don't have to exercise self-discipline with my diet. I don't have to worry about portion control. I don't have to worry about counting calories, because now I'm able to have such an intimate relationship with my body that I wasn't able to have before, because the signals that I'm getting are now more clear, because it's not muddled up with other things that unfortunately that we get from plants.
I think that's something everybody should just experience and experiment for themselves, instead of just getting whatever is on the shelves and just consuming that without actually having eliminated and really seeing what it works for them, etc., etc. But when it comes to dieting and things of that nature, you see, I'll give you an example. My household, I'm Zimbabwean, my wife is Italian, and we've got Australian kids. And so you can imagine when we're having breakfast in the house, it's like the United Nations, everyone has their you know what I mean? How has that change maybe, affected you socially, family-wise, or maybe even yourself? Didn't you protest that you swore by the vegan diet before, but now you've completely changed?
Absolutely. And another thing I would like to mention, the reason that I got into nutrition in the first place was because of veganism. And I thought, okay, I'm going to share this vegan message with everyone. And it's just really ironic that now that would be the last thing I would recommend to anyone. Socially in Australia, I would say it's easy at public events because barbecuing and things like that is such a part of the culture that it's not necessarily a problem. But when it comes to my own identity and how I identified as a vegan and, buying food, growing food, prepping, washing up, all this type of stuff, I'm actually feel really, really lucky that I don't have to do that anymore with a carnivore diet. There's barely any meal prep. You just get your chunk of meat, you put it in the oven, you take it out, you put some salt, and you're done. And so I love the simplicity of it, because mentally I would feel every single mealtime a dilemma as a vegan. And especially as a woman, is this portion too big for me? Am I going to feel hungry afterwards? Is this healthy? Is there enough protein? And so many questions just plagued my mind, stressing my body. And that just didn't help at all. So when it comes to my own identity, I like to say, when I first turned carnivore, I used to tell people, how I was so sure about being vegan and how that's the right thing. I'm just as sure about carnivore, but at the same time, as I was wrong about veganism, I could be wrong about this as well. So, I'm not trying to preach it or convert people. I'm just sharing my experience, and there's loads of other experience as well when it comes to this kind of way of eating. Not only that, there's been a lot of studies done, and physiologically, the way that we digest food, it's been shown our digestive system is made to digest meat and fat.
Absolutely. I mean, even just our physiology, we wouldn't have canines if we're not designed to eat any meat, and canines are the teeth that actually cut meat chunks. Okay. Now, you are now helping people with a combination of nutrition, NLP, and coaching and things of that nature. Maybe you just walk us through what you are offering, and if somebody's listening to this, and what can they expect from Zahra or Wellness with Zahra?
Yeah, sure. So I don't just work with nutrition, and I take a more holistic approach. I like to call myself a health coach or a wellness coach because I feel like it combines the NLP strategies from the life coaching and the nutrition advising aspect of it. And so it's about the whole entire health. It's about the wellness of your entire being. And it needs to take into account every aspect of your life. So depending on what people need, I work with so many different strategies, but NLP is something I use with all my clients. And NLP, for those who don't know, stands for neuro-linguistic programming. Neuro meaning brain, linguistic meaning language. Programming is the patterns. And so basically, the idea is that we are reacting to the reality not as it exists out there, but as it exists in our mind, how we've programmed to receive that information and filter out certain information and delete certain information. And we create this map of reality in our mind, and we act as if this is the reality. And so NLP works with transformation when we start to change the map by using different tools, and that affects our behavior, our emotions, our identity as a result.
Oh, absolutely. But, people can just watch TV, or people can just read on the news or scroll social media. And, that could be the patterns that they're focusing on. Why would they need to then have some different way of thinking?
Yeah, so I think questioning your current beliefs is the basis of transformation. So if you're not happy where you're at right now, if there's something that you feel unsatisfied in your life, something's missing, maybe you feel like you're almost like pushing against the grain and everything just feels hard. You might be self-sabotaging without even realizing it. And some of these patterns are so deeply unconscious that it's really difficult to uncover them on your own. And this is where a coach comes in. The role of a coach is not to tell you what to do, but it's more to do with, I'm in the passenger seat, you're still in the driver's seat, and I'm sort of guiding you. Maybe I ask you the right question at the right time, and it makes you question something, and then you get the insight, and then you decide how you want to transform from there, and then maybe I hold you accountable. And this is part of the process as well. So it's very much on an individual, personalized basis. It looks different for everyone.
Oh, absolutely. And because so many people have never had to question where they live, what they eat, and you've done that. You moved from Pakistan to Australia, and that presented a whole different world. Some people haven't left the state that they were born in, so they wouldn't know any sort of different things that they might have. But there might be also, besides the veganism or the carnivore meats that you are busting, what else are you coming across that people seem to not want to let go of, which is literally not serving them anymore?
Yeah, this is a really deeply personal topic to me because I feel that everyone is on their own healing journey, and for everyone, healing looks like something different. There is such a thing as the right thing, but at the wrong time. And so I'm not here to tell everyone this is the right thing, this is what everyone should do all the time. It's more about where you're at in your life. And one thing I've found is that when it comes to trauma and things that we hold onto from our childhood, beliefs that we carry with us that mean something about ourselves. Maybe someone was mean to us or someone treated us badly, and we started operating from this belief, from this identity that our worth is not something that's valuable, and we don't stand up for ourselves. We don't go for that amazing job that we've always wanted to. We don't go for that relationship. You don't want to take the risk, and these kinds of things, we stop ourselves from even wanting to achieve big things in our life because we might be holding on to our trauma and self-sabotaging. And no judgment if that's somewhere where people are at, because the thing is, you have to be ready to let go of an old part of you first before you can transform into the newer version of yourself. And that letting go process can be quite painful. It can be like a loss. It can be like a mourning process. You're letting go of a part of yourself that you've operated from a very long period of time. And it takes compassion to let it go with love and peace and not hold any resentment and judgment against yourself. And this is another place where a coach can come in and take you through that process. But even if we're being more loyal to our trauma than our own vision, I just want to say there's no shame in that, because I think the shame is what holds us back. Curiosity, I'm going to say again, is what opens the door to the transformation.
But Zahra, somebody might just be looking at this and thinking, I didn't have any childhood trauma. I eat relatively well. I don't, really have or relate to any of these things. Is it something that people should maybe, reach out and find out if this works for them? Or is there a certain specific type of person that really needs to reach out to you?
I think that everybody can use these tools that I'm sharing. And this is another analogy I want to share with you, which is the frog in boiling water analogy, which is where if you put a frog in normal room temperature water, it's completely fine. And then you turn up the heat and the water temperature rises very, very slowly. And the frog almost doesn't even notice and still stays in there until it's boiling and it hasn't jumped out. And what this shows is that sometimes we tolerate problems for so long, we don't even realize we might be the boiling frog, that the heat has been turning up on us, that problems have been coming up in our lives. We've been tolerating it for so long. Every single day, we just make excuses for other people maybe treating us badly, or maybe for us being dissatisfied in our job or dissatisfied in our life. And we just make excuses, and this is why, and this is why, when we don't realize we've been tolerating for so long. We've almost become resilient, but not really in a good way. And this is why I would say that even if you think that things are fine, you might realize that there are things in your life that you might be tolerating for far too long. And this NLP process will help you uncover those and transform them.
Oh, absolutely. You see, I like what you're talking about that, because the frog that is being turned up will actually boil and die without it even realizing that, wait a minute, things have changed. And I like this statement that says fish don't see the water that they swim in. So a lot of people might actually be looking around them and looking at their neighbors and going, oh, I think I'm better off than them. What are some of the telltale signs that people should be on the lookout for to then say, you know what, I think I need to get something checked out here?
Yeah, so this is something I work very deeply with clients with, because when it comes to listening to your intuition, that is a common theme that I've noticed. A lot of the times when we are so out of touch with our highest, best version of ourselves, we've actually stopped listening to our intuition long time ago. And so we might get things like the inner critic might be very loud. And sometimes we haven't questioned that inner critic. We might get that fatigue physically all the time. We might feel drained wherever we go. And the difference that I can say that I feel now after going through those transformations is that when I wake up, I feel excited. I feel full of joy and excitement. And that is a telltale sign that you're living your best life. And if you're not feeling that every day, there's probably something you can change in your life.
Absolutely. Well, somebody's thinking right now, how can I be excited about being stuck in traffic or being stuck in a tube full of other people going to some sort of place that I don't even want to be at for 8 hours of my life? But if somebody's really serious and maybe has considered to maybe start taking some of these tools or just inquire, what's the next thing that you'd want them to do, or where can they go to get in touch with you, Zahra?
Yeah, so I encourage you to book a call with me. The first call is completely free, and that's just to figure out whether we'll be a good match to work with each other, whether you have things that you want to change about yourself. But if you feel you're happy where you're at, that's completely fine. Maybe you don't need my help right now. Maybe my style of coaching doesn't resonate with you. That's fine. Maybe you still want to change and find that elsewhere. And so that's where I offer that complimentary consultation at first. The link to that I've provided.
Absolutely. And yeah, definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much, because so many people, like you said, they might not actually realize that things are not going well. And, I don't know if cars these days still do the same, but there's always that check engine light, that comes up, and it lets you know that things need to be checked. And once in a while, people just need to be looking that way. All right. So I'm really excited for the conversation that we've just had today, Zahra. And obviously, you've brought us now into your world. And if people looking out to say, wow, this is something different I've never come across, what else can they expect in the future that you are working on that, we can also come and help you celebrate?
Absolutely. And I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and share my story with here. So raw and honest. Some of these things I've never talked about. And so I feel more inspired now to share my story more. I have a YouTube channel. I'm active on Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So you can follow me there as well. And that's where I'll be sharing more of my story, not just my immigration story, but also I've gone through other relationship issues, and now I'm in a long-term healthy relationship. And some of the things that I've learned about that, I think that in this day and age, I feel that what we're seeing now, people having relationships later and later in life, or having so many short-term relationships, having kids way later in life, I think that shows something about the cohesive nature of our society that we're losing a little bit. And I think it's really important to start building that sense of connection with everyone. And so I'm going to be sharing my story a lot more from here on out. And yeah, I'm excited for anyone else to follow me in that journey.
Oh, absolutely. And I really appreciate you connecting with us today. And I blame social media really, because people think they're connected, via that screen. So they don't think they need to exert themselves and connect more in person. And I think it's just, pulling people apart. And obviously, while they're doing that, they're not eating well, they're not exercising, they're not thinking well. And then it's just a spiral effect through and through. So if you're watching this right now, I think you need to just get in touch with Zahra. I'll put all the details in the show notes below so that you can actually find out what you might be missing, or be given the tools that might get you on the right path. Now, Zahra, thank you so much. What a rich, vulnerable, inspiring conversation. I mean, you brought us through darkness, through radical shifts, and you just shown us a pathway of embodied transformation. So thank you so much for the journey that you're going on, and thank you so much for sharing part of that journey as well.
Thank you, Prosper, for having me and having this platform where you feature voices like myself, because people need to hear about the transformation and then get inspired themselves. That's what I'm all about.
Absolutely. And for those that are watching right now, I'm going to ask you a question. What a small step are you going to take just from what you've heard today? And it could actually open a big shift in your life, and it could be the shift that you've been waiting for. So thank you so much for joining us, and I'll see you on the next episode, where we're going to go deeper, and we're going to obviously dream bigger and build happier lives. Bye for now.